Hello there. In this video, we'll dive deep into the world of Bennett in Genshin Impact, discussing why he's considered one of the best characters, how to harness his incredible potential and how to optimize his best build, being artifacts, weapons, and team compositions for maximum effectiveness. But before we jump into the details, I want to let you know that I stream live on Twitch twice a week. During these streams, we build and test different characters, review various builds, and have a lot of fun. If you are interested in joining us, you can find the link in video description. Also, feel free to check out my Discord community where you can ask questions, share your favorite character builds, or request an account review. With that being said, let's get right into the build. Alright, so the first thing we are gonna do in this video is cover Bennett's talents very quickly, explain how he works and what makes him so broken. Now Bennett is a character whose burst is the main reason why you're using him. What the burst does is it places a huge field on the ground that will constantly heal your party members inside of it and provide them with a huge attack buff. Now do keep in mind that his attack buff scales on your Bennett's base attack, which definitely means you should consider leveling him up and make sure you use a weapon that is fully leveled up and which has a high base attack. The important part you need to know is, however, that if your Bennett is at C0, then you will only gain the attack bonus which makes this ability broken once you are higher than 70% HP and you are no longer healing from Bennett's burst. But in most cases, this isn't a problem because of how much healing Bennett provides and also due to the uptime of this ability. Don't get me wrong, Bennett's burst is extremely good without any consolation, but when your Bennett is at C1, you will no longer have an HP restriction and your Bennett will always provide you with that attack buff regardless of how low HP you are. The duration of the burst is 12 seconds on a 15 seconds cooldown, due to which you can have a really high uptime on this ability. The energy cost is only 60, due to which you can have a very high skill damage. This ability alone not only makes Bennett broken and an amazing support, but also an amazing healer in almost any team. Another important thing I want to mention is, when you use Bennett's burst, you are infusing yourself with Pyro, so when you are pairing him with someone like Kazuha or even Jean, who can easily swirl that Pyro when used alongside Bennett's burst. Another important thing about Bennett is his skill. What makes his skill so good is because of how short his cooldown is when you use this ability. It has a decent scaling and can either be pressed or hold, but in general, you will just want to press this ability because of its very low cooldown. Another cool thing about Bennett is both of Bennett's talents lower the cooldown of his elemental skill by 20% on your first talent and another 50% when you are inside of Bennett's burst, which allows you to spam his ability non-stop. This is actually very helpful to get a lot of pyro particles, which is very useful to get your Bennett's burst back. It is also useful for other pyro characters who need particles like Shanglin, who depend on Bennett to increase her burst damage when used instead of Bennett's ult, and it also ensures that she can get her burst back on cooldown by funneling particles. Now if you are confused and didn't understand, then let me explain to you in simple words. What I mean is, you can rapidly press your elemental skill on Bennett due to its low cooldown and catch the particles on whichever character needs them the most. A perfect example is continuously swapping from your Bennett to your Shanglin to get her burst back on cooldown while the Pinedo is still spinning. So in brief, what you need to know about Bennett is that the elemental skill has a very low cooldown which generates around 2 to 3 particles, and his elemental burst is just amazing. Talking about talent priority, you should focus on maximizing your burst as quickly as possible, as every level you gain will increase how much attack you are giving to your team and also healing. Do note that this attack is very helpful for your team's overall DPS, so maximizing your burst followed by your skills is the way to go. About normal attack, you can just ignore this. One important thing which you should never forget is what your base attack is. Listen carefully guys. Your base attack is your weapon and your level and is not the same as flat attack. Artifacts that give you flat attack or have flat attack on a substat are not the same as your base attack, which means it will not increase the attack bonus that your Bennett gives you. Now what really matters is the number over here. This number, which is calculated on your weapon and your level. This is something that you should always remember and never forget, as it is extremely important. Before we move on to Bennett's artifacts, I do wanna mention that I'll be explaining why I'm using this specific artifact set for my Bennett. So talking about Bennett's artifact sets is pretty much straightforward. There are many possible sets that you can use for your Bennett, but for most players and in most cases, the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige is the one that you should go with. What makes Noblesse Oblige the best artifact set for your Bennett is because it will buff your party members' attack by 20% for 12 seconds when you use your Bennett's burst. Now this is a bonus that stacks on top of your Bennett's ult, due to which every single time you use your Bennett's burst, when you are using Noblesse set, you will be providing your team with a greater attack bonus as you are buffing it in two ways. Bennett is a character whose burst you'll want to use non-stop, so another cool thing about running Noblesse set is it will allow you to literally use his burst non-stop on cooldown to where you're always DPSing while being inside his burst for maximum damage. Also, you can have a really good uptime on the Noblesse set as you will be buffing your team every single time you use your burst, and the cool thing is it has a cooldown of only 15 seconds. Another cool thing about running the Noblesse set is that the 2-piece set will give you 20% damage bonus to your burst. Now there are some more sets that you can use for your Bennett, such as the 4-piece Exile, which is capable of giving your team some energy in case you are in need of it. Another really good set depending on certain situations and in certain teams is the Instructor set, and is particularly good in reaction teams but just DPS wise. But these sets, being 4-star sets, will give you a lot less stats on your Bennett. Don't get me wrong, it's a very good set in certain teams. Another important thing that you should know is about running the 4-piece Thundering Fury. Now, I want to make it very clear that this set is only helpful when you're fighting enemies that have a very powerful electro shield. Using this set will allow you to destroy these shields in an instant. But I don't recommend this set as it is not designed for Bennett, and the best set is the Noblesse Oblige, and it is the one that you should go with. Before we move on to the next section, I do wanna mention that the 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames is pretty good for your Bennett. Talking about the healer sets, I want to make it very clear that Bennett is not someone who needs them, and he is not someone who needs the healing bonus from such sets. Now, I want to very specifically talk about the stats that you should be running on your Bennett so that you get the most out of your Bennett. The most important and the one that you should focus on is having enough energy recharge to use your burst on cooldown. As I mentioned earlier, your burst is the main reason why you're using your Bennett, so it is very important to have enough energy recharge to have as little downtime as possible. Another amazing part about having high energy recharge is it will allow you to use less skill in your rotation, which is a plus point as it will allow you to spend more time on your other characters in your team instead of using your Bennett and pressing your E and trying to get his burst back. Other than this, in order to get more damage, crit rate and crit damage are the artifact stats that you should focus on. About your healing, HP percent will increase it along with healing bonus. Now being more specific for your energy recharge, around 200, having enough energy recharge is always better as you don't have to spend much time on Bennett and always has his burst ready. Once you have enough energy recharge, the next thing you should focus on is damage or HP. Also, I do wanna make it very clear that even if you invest very little in your Bennett, then you don't need much healing just cause of how much you naturally get without stacking HP on all your pieces. Yes, of course, this healing won't be as great as a full HP Bennett, but it's more than enough as you are rarely gonna die inside of his burst unless maybe like you end up getting hit by one shot or something. Now I know most players want a Bennett that can just heal, so be free to run him on low investments, but make sure you have enough energy recharge. Once you have enough energy recharge, you can proceed for your healing artifacts, and the best being HP Goblet and either a HP or a healing bonus circlet, with healing bonus being the better one to maximize your damage. I do wanna mention that if you choose to invest into your Bennett, which is definitely worth it as he is someone who has high scaling on his burst and skill and can almost fit in every team. So for optimized Bennett, you can go for a pyro damage bonus Goblet and a crit rate or crit damage circle. For your Saints, you should go for energy recharge due to how much energy recharge you need on your Bennett. Now, if you are someone like me who already has enough energy recharge without needing a ER Saints, and you are already able to get your burst back on cooldown, as that is the main reason why we need so much ER for Bennett, then you have two options. You can either go for an attack percent for damage or HP percent for a healer build. The reason I chose attack is because I wanted more damage. I have also come across certain players who use elemental mastery. It is viable in certain reaction teams, but generally as a support, that is something I do not recommend and is something that you should not go for. Alright, let's discuss Bennett's constellations now. Bennett is a character whose constellations are often misunderstood, especially his C6. First and foremost, I like to emphasize that Bennett is an exceptional unit regardless of which constellation you possess, as he is just incredibly amazing. As mentioned earlier, Bennett C1 eliminates the HP restriction on his buff, ensuring that he always buffs the active characters rather than only when they are above 70% HP. Additionally, it grants a 20% increase in Bennett's base attack, providing your team with more damage and strengthening your burst abilities. While Bennett is undoubtedly powerful even without any constellations, C1 offers both convenience and a substantial damage boost. C2 provides some energy recharge when Bennett falls below 70% HP, which is helpful but not a game changer. His C4 is rather nice and only impactful when you use your Bennett skill followed by a normal attack. His C3 and C5, especially C5, are quite. Therefore, Bennett C1 and C5 are excellent constellations worth pursuing if Bennett appears on a banner. Now, let's dwell into Bennett's most misunderstood constellation, that is his C6. C6 infuses the auto attack of swords, claymore or Polion wielding characters within Bennett's burst and grants them a 15% power damage bonus during the burst. This constellation can either be an advantage or a disadvantage depending on the characters you are using. However, it is important to dispel the misconception that you should never activate it, as it suitably depends on your team compositions and playstyle. The reason I don't choose to activate my C6 and also hesitate to recommend it to you because it can disrupt certain teams' composition, especially those relying on physical damage dealers like Eula or Razor, who may not benefit from having their attacks infused with Pyro. While you can easily pair these characters with other healers, they can also function well with a non-C6 Bennett team. However, on the positive side, C6 can enhance specific teams and enable new ones, such as Pyro teams with characters like Klee, Pyro Koching, Pyro Kazuha, or buffing Pyro carries like Shangling or Deluge. Therefore, this constellation is a double-edged sword and you should carefully consider how it fits into your team's overall strategy before activating it. In conclusion, the decision to activate Bennett C6 ultimately depends on your preferred characters and your team composition. However, the important thing to keep in mind is that constellations cannot be toggled on and off, so I choose not to activate my C6 to maintain the flexibility of using Bennett in various team setup. However, the choice is in your hands and you should tailor it to your preferred playstyles and account progressions. But I would recommend you not to activate his C6. When it comes to Bennett's weapon choice for support, there seems to be quite a bit of confusion, with many people wondering which weapon is best, especially when comparing 5-star weapons and considering whether to prioritize base attack or energy recharge. To clarify this, I like to discuss the optimal weapons for Bennett in this section. Now, as we previously discussed in this video, Bennett primarily requires two key attributes in his weapon. Firstly, he needs enough energy recharge to consistently use his burst ability, and secondly, he aims to buff his team's performance with a weapon that offers a high base attack, like the Favonier Sword. This emphasizes on base attack is critical because his burst attack bonus scales exclusively from his base attack alone and doesn't take into account attack percentage boost from other sources. Therefore, a weapon with a high base attack is essential for maximizing your team's overall DPS to Bennett's buff. Considering this, the two crucial stats to look for in a weapon for Bennett: a weapon with a high base attack or high energy recharge. You have the option to go for a weapon with a high base attack or high energy recharge, or even a combination of the both, such as the Skyward Blade. One thing I must mention that having energy recharge from your weapon can be a great advantage, especially if you are lacking it from your artifacts or if your team struggles to generate energy quickly. However, as you invest more in Bennett and improve his artifact stats, base attack becomes increasingly more important compared to energy recharge. The reason behind this is that you can enhance energy recharge to artifacts, but base attack cannot be increased to artifacts. Therefore, to optimize Bennett's performance, it is beneficial to aim for around 200 to 250 energy recharge from your artifacts alone, which will allow you to choose a weapon with a significant high base attack even if it doesn't provide energy recharge. The top weapons for Bennett, emphasizing base attack, include Achillea Favonia and Missplitter, both offering the same exceptionally high base attack. Another solid choice is the Skyward Blade, which provides a well-rounded combination of high base attack and energy recharge, making it easier to build Bennett for constant burst spam. Moving on to 4-star options, Bennett's best pick is the LA Flash if you have it. Despite not appearing on many banners, even at Refinement rank 1, it excels due to its extremely high base attack, and it even suppresses the Skyward Blade in this aspect, although it lacks energy recharge. Nevertheless, it remains the top choice overall. For more accessible weapons, free-to-play alternatives with a high base attack such as the Prototype Renko or Black Cliff's Longsword can be excellent choices for a base attack focused weapon. The Prototype Renko, being a free-to-play option, can be obtained by any Bennett user, particularly in the late game or when you have sufficient energy recharge from your artifacts alone. However, if you are still in the early stages or have low investment artifacts, any weapon with energy recharge stats can be a good option. Weapons like the Festering Desire or even the Favonia Sword, if your team requires particles, can be suitable options. But be cautious with the Favonia Sword, though, as its low base attack may result in less impactful team buffs from Bennett. Additionally, if you happen to have any 5-star weapons, you can use them on Bennett. Even a weapon like the Summit Shaper with its high base attack can outperform certain 4-star options. However, they may not be as impactful as some of the 5-star weapons that I mentioned earlier. Lastly, regarding the Jade Cutter, it may provide additional HP, enhancing Bennett's healing capabilities. Still, when compared to other 5-star weapons, its lower base attack and the significant boost in crit rate it offers makes it more valuable for characters like Xingqiu or Keqing or any sword user in general. In conclusion, Bennett benefits the most from a weapon that prioritizes high base attack or significant energy recharge. Now, let's shift our focus to discussing the optimal teams and synergies for maximizing the value of Bennett as a support character. Bennett's healing and damage buff are exceptionally amazing, making him an excellent choice for teams in need of a healer who can also contribute significantly to damage output. This versatility allows you to use Bennett into virtually any team composition. In essence, if your team requires a healer, Bennett is usually the top choice due to the substantial damage he can provide, unless you specifically need a Kyro support like someone like Diona or a shield support like someone like Zhongli. But seriously, Bennett genuinely fits into nearly any team. Now let's dwell into more specific synergies beyond the general teams where Bennett truly shines. First, we have characters like Shanglin and other pyro carries who benefit from having a pyro battery, someone to generate energy for them to spam their burst. Shanglin is an excellent example of this synergy, as she not only requires the energy particles that Bennett provides, but also benefits greatly from the damage increase when using her Pinedo within Bennett's burst. Therefore, any Shanglin team you run should include Bennett. This also applies to teams featuring someone like Child, Raiden Shogun, Sucrose, Kazuha if you have him, and even Jean. Additionally, some anemo characters can synergize exceptionally well with Bennett. As demonstrated, you can trigger self-swirl reactions of the pyro status inflicted with characters like Kazuha or even Jean, making them great choice to pair with Bennett. Jean can also serve as a healer for your secondary team in 2-team setup. Teams like a Sunfire composition reliant on Bennett to swirl pyro can benefit significantly from his presence. Furthermore, running Bennett alongside Shanglin or Kazuha can enable meld teams, such as a meld Ganyu team, which thrives on pyro support. Lastly, hypercarries like Shao or Raiden Shogun who benefit greatly from the attack percentage increase he provides. Bennett is so effective that he even shines in teams where the synergy might seem less favorable due to the immense value he brings. In summary, he excels in teams with pyro characters or those in need of a pyro support, such as Ganyu Meld team or compositions featuring Shanglin. Additionally, his attack buff can boost the performance of hypercarries like Raiden Shogun or Shao. Bennett's value is so high that he remains a top choice even in teams where his synergy might not seem optimal. Ultimately, Bennett's adaptability and power make him a valuable addition to various team compositions.